Hello everyone, welcome to PathMed. Today let us study about Wilms tumor or also called nephroblastoma. Wilms tumor is the most frequent abdominal malignant tumor in the children and it constitutes 5% of all the childhood tumors. When we look into the origin, it arises from the embryonal mesonephric mesoderm. You look into the embryology, the kidneys they develop from this nephrogenic cord. Initially, up to 4 weeks, they develop into pronephros, later carries forward into mesonephros. From 5th week onwards up till 6th week, mesonephros are present. This when this embryological tissue remains in a fully formed kidney, they have the potential to develop into Wilms tumor. So Wilms tumor they arise from this mesonephric tissue, mesonephric mesoderm. So the most common presentation is it occurs between the age groups of 1 to 5 years and most of the cases that like almost 90% of the cases they occur before the age of 9 years and they equally affect males and females. Girls and boys are equally affected by the Wilms tumor. When you look into the molecular genetics, Wilms tumor has two genes, WT1 gene and T2 gene. WT1 gene, it is a tumor suppressor gene and it is present on the short arm of chromosome 11. So, it affects a contiguous genes as well. What does this mean? Whenever the WT1 gene is affected, the adjacent genes, if suppose this is the chromosome 11, it is present on a short arm of chromosome 11. If this WT1 gene is affected, when the lesion is present here, the adjacent gene, nearby genes are also affected on the same short arm of chromosome 11. This is the meaning of it affects contiguous genes. So this is Wilms tumor. It is present on chromosome 11. W, it is present on chromosome 11. T1 is present on 11p13. T2 is present on 11p15, just adjacent side by side. When you look into the WT1 gene mutation, the T1 gene mutation is associated with two syndromes. It presents out as two syndromes, that is the Wager syndrome. First one is the Wager syndrome, and the other is the Dennis-Drash syndrome. Dennis-Drash syndrome. Firstly, let us see about Wager syndrome. When you split Wager, W-A-G-R, first W stands for Wilms tumor, obviously. Next is aniridia because the iris formation, iris muscle, the gene responsible for iris formation is PAX6 gene, which is located on the chromosome 11 itself. That is why we said WT1, it affects the contiguous genes. So, if at all the short arm, the WT1 is affected, the same PAX6 gene is also located nearby the WT1, so it affects the adjacent gene. And also see here the image. Here there's no iris. The color of the eye, either dark brown, honey brown, it is due to the iris muscle. When iris itself is absent, there's no like differentiating color. Like iris and the center pupil is not, we cannot appreciate. That is aniridia. And also you can have genitourinary abnormalities. Anything with genitals, genital tract or the urinary system abnormalities can be present. And also R stands for mental retardation. The child is mentally retarded. This is about WAGR Wager syndrome. When you look into Dennis-Drash syndrome, it again associated with two Ds. First one is kidney diffuse mesangial sclerosis. Mesangial sclerosis. When there is sclerosis, it affects the kidney function. The scar tissue impairs the kidney function. The filtration rate is affected. Other D stands for dysgerminoma of the gonads, either testicular tumors or the ovarian tumors. These are the two syndromes associated with WT1 gene. WT2 gene, it is associated with one syndrome, that is Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome. Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome. It occurs because of this oncogene present on chromosome 11. The oncogene is IGF2. Insulin-like growth factor 2, it is present on the chromosome 11. When this gene becomes overactive, it leads to Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome. Because of overactivity, there is uncontrolled cell growth. The clinical features are hemihypertrophy, that is, one side of the body overgrows. One side of the body, if suppose this, uh, only the one side of the body overgrows. This is hemihypertrophy. And also this macroglossia. See this child, tongue is coming out. It's macroglossic. And there are ear abnormalities like the shape of the ear. Abnormalities with the shape of the ear. And this omphalocene can also be associated. That is, the entire gastric contents are outside through the abdominal opening, and it is it is present within a sac. That is omphalocele, and there can be hepatoblastomas related to liver, and Wilms tumor obviously it is present, and also adrenal cortical tumors. Adrenal cortical tumors are also present. This is all about Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome. Grossly, the Wilms tumor, it is they are large and they almost entirely replace the normal kidney tissue, and these are bulging, they bulge out from the renal tissue, and these are fleshy tumors. When you cut it on cut section, the tumor it is enclosed. They are well circumscribed tumors. They are well circumscribed. They are enclosed in a rim of renal cortex and a capsule, and it is the color is almost pinkish to pale white. When you look into the microscopic image, so Wilms tumor it is a triphasic tumor. Mostly it is triphasic, means it has both three components: epithelial, mesenchymal, and blastemal components. Very rarely it can be biphasic or monophasic. In very few cases they are biphasic or monophasic, but mostly they are triphasic tumors. So epithelial component it is present in the form of abortive tubules or glomeruli. Abortive means the epithelial cells they try to form a fully formed tubules and glomeruli, but they are unable to complete the formation. Though that means the incomplete formation. These are the tubular component. Tubules are present. Tubules, tubular component, and mesenchymal. Mesenchyme means the myxoid stroma or the fibrous tissue, fibroblastic stroma. Fibrous stroma is there. This is the fibrous stroma. You can find loose myxoid stroma. Loose, it is entirely loose hypocellular area with elongated spindle cells that forms the mesenchymal component. The blastemal component, the small round, it is present in the form of sheets, the entire vast sheets of small round blue cells, the darkly stained small dots, they are the blastemal cells. So here this is a clear view and hyper view showing you the Wilms tumor slide. You can find this epithelial component. This is the epithelial component. This is the incomplete abortive tubules. This is a fully formed tubule. It is almost like a rosette. So this is a fully formed tubule. Incomplete abortive tubules are there. Abortive tubules are there. And also you can find these are the sheets of small round blue cell blastemal component. And also this loose hypocellular area is the fibrous stroma. Elongated spindle cells are present. Elongated spindle cells. Presence of three components. This is a triphasic tumor, characteristic of a Wilms tumor. And most importantly, in microscopy, the pathology report, you have to look for this anaplasia, whether anaplasia is mentioned or not. Anaplasia, how, I mean, it appears like hyperchromatic nucleus. The nucleus are very like densely bizarre nucleus is present, and these are the dense hyperchromatic nucleus, and there can be mitotic figures. Presence of mitotic figures are important. It represents the cells in dividing state. Uncontrolled cell because of uncontrolled cell growth, mitotic figures can present. Here, this image, this is a mitotic figure. You can find the nucleus in dividing state. This is a mitotic figure. This is the one mitotic figure. Mitotic figure, it indicates poor prognosis. They are associated, anaplasia associated with poor prognosis. And also, secondly, You have to look for embryological remnants, whether blastomal cells, the mesonephric tissue is present, because it indicates the risk of contralateral Wilms tumor. If you take out a Wilms tumor, one kidney is affected, and you resect and you examine this tumor, if you find the mesonephric tissue, the embryological remnants, you have to be careful about the contralateral kidney also. So these two are the important points in the microscopic examination. The clinical features, it has a Wilms tumor has a triad of abdominal mass, hematuria, and fever. Whereas in RCC you have abdominal flank pain. In Wilms tumor that is replaced by fever. And the spread, most commonly Wilms tumor is spread to lungs. Lungs are the most common organ. About 80% they metastasize to lungs. Then after next, liver, brain are affected. Coming to the staging, first stage 1 they are limited to the kidney. It is present tumor, it is present within the kidney and the capsule is intact. Renal capsule is intact. The capsule is not distorted. Whereas when you go to stage 2, the capsule is invaded. The renal capsule invaded or surrounding tissues are invaded. Stage 3, they are present, they are spread beyond, they are beyond the kidneys like lymph nodes, para-aortic lymph nodes, abdominal aortic lymph nodes, they are affected. Stage 4 is distant mets, lungs being the more common, lungs, brain, liver, they are affected. Metastasis in different organs come under stage 4. Stage 5 is the bilateral involvement. Two kidneys involvement, that is stage 5. This is all about Wilms tumor. Thank you everyone.